This one is titled Grandfather Fights an Ostrich. Before grandfather joined the Indian Railways, he worked for some time on the East African Railways. And it was during that period that he had his famous encounter with the ostrich. My childhood was frequently enlivened by this oft-told tale of my grandfather's, and I give it here in his own words, or as well as I can remember them. While engaged in the laying of a new railway line, I had a miraculous escape from an awful death. This is the grandfather's story. I lived in a small township, that, but the work lay some 12 miles away. And although I had a tent on the works, I often had to go to town on horseback. On one occasion, an accident happening to my horse. I got a lift into town, hoping that someone might do me a similar favor on my way back. But this was not to be, and I made up my mind next morning to do the journey on foot, shortening the distance by taking a cut through the hills, which would save me about 6 miles. To take this shortcut, it was necessary to cross an ostrich camp or farm. To venture across these camps in the breeding season, especially on foot, can be dangerous. For during this time, the male birds are extremely ferocious. But being familiar with the ways of ostriches, I knew that my dog would scare away any ostrich which tried to attack me. Strange though it may seem, even the biggest ostrich, and some of them grow to be a height of 9 feet, will bolt faster than a racehorse at the sight of even a small dog. And so, in company with my dog, a mongrel who had adopted me the previous month, I felt reasonably safe. On arrival at the camp, I got through the wire fencing and, keeping a good lookout, dodged across the spaces between the bushes. Now and then getting a sight of the birds which were feeding some distance away. I had gone about half a mile from the fencing when up started a hare, and in an instant my dog gave chase. I tried to call him back, though I knew it was useless, since chasing hares was a passion with him. Whether it was the dog's bark or my own shouting, I don't know. But just what I was most anxious to avoid immediately happened. The ostriches became startled and began darting to and fro. Suddenly, I saw a big male bird emerge from a thicket about 100 yards away. He stood still and stared at me for a few moments. Then, expanding his wings and with his tail erect, he came bounding towards me. Believing discretion to be the better part of valor, at least in that particular instance, I turned and ran towards the fence. But it was an unequal race. What were my steps of 2 or 3 feet against the creature's giant strides of 16 to 20 feet? There was only one hope: to wait for the ostrich behind some bush and try to dodge him till he tired. A dodging game was obviously my only chance. Altering course a little, I rushed for the nearest clump of bushes, where gasping for breath, I waited for my pursuer. The great bird was almost immediately upon me, and a strange encounter commenced. This way and that I dodged, taking great care that I did not get directly in front of his deadly kick. The ostrich kicks forward, and with such terrific force that in his great chisel-like nails, if they strike, would rip me open from head to foot in one strike. Breathless and really quite helpless, I prayed wildly for help as I circled the bush, which was about 12 feet in diameter and some 6 feet in height. My strength was rapidly failing, and I realized it would be impossible to keep up this struggle much longer. I was really ready to drop from sheer exhaustion. As if aware of my condition, the infuriated bird suddenly uh, doubled its doubled on his course and charged at me. With a desperate effort, I managed to step to one side. How it happened, I don't know, but I found myself holding on to one of these creature's wings, close to his body. It was now the bird's turn to be frightened, and he began to turn, or rather waltz, moving round and round so quickly that my feet were soon swinging out almost horizontally. All the time, the ostrich kept opening and shutting his beak with loud snaps. Imagine my situation as I clung desperately to the wing of the enraged bird, who was whirling round and round as if I had been a cork. My arms soon began to ache with the strain, and the swift and continuous circling was making me dizzy. But I knew that if I relaxed my hold, a terrible fate awaited me. I would be promptly trampled to death by the spiteful bird. Round and round, we went in a great circle. It seemed as if my enemy would never tire, but I knew I could not hold on much longer. Suddenly, the bird went into reverse. This unexpected movement not only had the effect of making me lose my hold, but sent me sprawling to the ground. I landed in a heap at the foot of the thorn bush. In an instant, almost before I had time to realize what had happened, the ostrich was upon me. I thought the end had come. Instinctively, I put up my hands to protect my face, but to my amazement, the great bird did not strike. I moved my hands from my face, and there stood the ostrich with one foot raised, ready to rip me open. I couldn't move. Was the bird going to play with me like a cat with a mouse and prolong my agony? As I watched fascinated, I saw him turn his head sharply to the left. A second later, he jumped back, turned, and made off as fast as he could. Dazed, I wondered what had happened. I soon found out, for to my great joy, I heard the bark of my truant dog. And the next moment, he was jumping around me and licking my face and my hands. Needless to say, I returned the caress most affectionately, and I took good care to see that he did not leave my side until we were clear of the ostrich camp. The large ostrich was so scared of a little dog. Well, that's it. I hope you liked it. Thank you.